Yo, Friday, dudes. Big one. Are you ready for this? Let's go. We'll start with the Daily Mirror online in the United Kingdom. Women. Unemployment rate at its highest since Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister. Unemployment among women has soared to its highest level since Margaret Thatcher was in power, latest figures showed yesterday. Young job hunters are also paying the price for the Tory economic failures, with almost 950,000 out of work. The jobless total surged by 38,000 to 2.5 million in the 3 months to June, the sharpest rise in 2 years. And in July, 37,000 more people claimed job seekers allowance than during the previous month, etc., etc. Women are being disproportionately hit by public sector job losses. That's an important one. Women's unemployment, for some reason, in the United Kingdom is going up a lot more than it is in the United States. Unemployment going up, and the government cuts will hit them more because more women are going to get cut out of government jobs. Moving on to the Office of National Statistics for the United Kingdom and GDP in the labour market. This is their poxy excuse for a chart describing it. See the 100 over in the middle left. That's at the start of the recession, and things went down in the recession, but you can see how so much things have got so much better. That bottom blue line is GDP, and you can see how it's ripped up through its old 100 mark and is going on and on to greater. No, it's not, is it? No. Calling it a recovery is just a bit of just putting a name on it. The important thing to note there is the dotted grey line at the top, something that is going up, and it's part-time employment. Same as the United States. A lot of increase in part-time employment, and this is a big trend that we will see lots and lots more of. Part-time employment. Below this, I wasn't going to read this out because it's such bollocks, but this is the writing from the Office of National Statistics right below that chart. The employment level increased by 25,000. Employment level increased by 25,000, with 251,000 more people in employment. The increase in total employment this quarter was driven by an increase of 49,000 in full-time employment. Self-employment increased by 24,000 and employees increased by 36,000. Unemployment has increased by 38,000. Quarter on quarter, with the unemployment rate rising on the quarter to 7.9%. The claimant count rose 37,000 in July, taking the total number claiming to 1.56 million, approximately 100,000 higher than July 2010. How are you meant to work anything out with absolute nonsense sort of statistics like those? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. If you're going to have those statistics, they need describing properly so people can make sense of them. I mean, those opening paragraphs are obviously for the media to get hold of, to see that employment went up here, there and everywhere, and down at the bottom they say, well, unemployment went up as well. Over in Germany, I'm sure the Statistische Bundesramt Wiesbaden 2011 have got it right, saying that German GDP is effectively zero. That's easy to understand. The money illusion, I think this comes from in the United States. Hoover reversed the Depression until hit by bad luck from Europe. Herbert Hoover succeeded in reversing the Depression during the early 1931. During the first 4 months of 1931, industrial production in the US rose slightly after plunging sharply throughout 1930. Then bad luck hit. The German-Austrian agreement of late March poisoned relations with France. Then the Austrian bank Credit Anstalt failed in May. Then German banks came under pressure. Then the German currency. Then the British currency. The crisis kept moving from one country to another. People sought gold as a safe haven, and the value or purchasing power of gold increased. More deflation set in. The severe recession of 1930 turned into the Great Contraction. Here's Obama yesterday. At a town hall meeting on his campaign-style tour of the Midwest, President Obama claimed that his economic program reversed the recession until recovery was frustrated by events overseas. Hoover wasn't able to print gold, but can be blamed for supporting the Fed's tight money policies at the time in the 30s. Obama can't print dollars, but can be blamed for not moving aggressively to put people at the Fed who understand the need for more dollars. Tying more rocks together, eh, Calypso? Editorial, New York Times, fight for a jobs agenda. Come September, President Obama's aides say he will roll out more programs to put Americans back to work. What we were hearing so far doesn't go nearly far enough. The gist? Continue the payroll tax cut for employees into the next year. Reform the patent system. Pass trade legislation. At a stop in Decorah, Iowa on Monday, he called for employing jobless construction workers to rebuild roads, bridges, schools across America. Those are all sensible ideas, but most are not up to the urgency or scale of the problem. 25 million Americans, 16.1% of the workforce, are out of work or working part-time, and the economy is weakening anew. Patent reforms and trade deals won't have much near-term impact. The payroll tax cut and federal employment benefits are crucial for supporting demand in a weak economy, but extending them for another year will only help to prop up the distressing status quo. New York Times, editorial, a second one. Faced with a divided Congress and economy in desperate straits, President Obama tried bargaining with Republicans. He tried adopting some of their ideas and pleaded with them for reasonable policies to help stave off disaster. For his efforts, he got nothing but a cold shoulder, and the country got a credit downgrade. Now, on a bus tour of the Midwest, he is bitterly pointing the finger at his opponents for their refusal to consider any new revenues to tackle the deficit, and their insistence on deep, near-term spending cuts that will only cause more economic pain. His anger is long overdue, but it would be much more effective if he combined it with strong ideas of his own for how to fix the economy, rather than the thin agenda he is now promoting. Now, I've put those in because last night I had a revelation. I just everything I know about Obama, which is very, very little, this much, just went together and said, he won't run for 2012, he'll pull out. What do you think? I don't think he'll run. I think he'll put Hillary in. Next, headline and core producer price index for finished goods, year-over-year percentage changes. Now, this is kind of factory stuff. This is PPI for finished goods, and core PPI without food and energy. And this is just to say inflation, and talking about it is very difficult. This is sort of factory sort of inflation. And you can say, yeah, but it's coming our way soon. Well, maybe it is. Headline is 7.2, and without food and energy, 2.5. That's the United States. Falcon blog. A perennial risk problem. Cash-strapped Detroit recently announced it won't be responding to home alarms. After all, 99% of them are false. A naive risk solution is to itemize everything that can go wrong, but in doing so, it is as bad as not mentioning any risks. Moderation in all things, in this case, the perennial balance between type 1 and type 2 errors, Hyperactive risk reports have the benefit of rarely being wrong. Just not useful, because after a short while decision makers get used to ignoring these risks. Now I've put this in to say I try and always stop these 10-15 minutes being just liturgies of doom and gloom. I try and link them together to try and paint a picture and make some sense. And if I go for this, hyperactive risk reports have the benefit of rarely being wrong. In other words, you can just go on and on about it until you are right one day. It's just not useful. Comments. Keep me honest. But I try and keep the picture painted reasonably. Robert Johnson gives us an article in Business Insider. Just days after returning home from another round of chemotherapy in Cuba, Hugo Chavez has ordered billions of dollars in cash and hundreds of tons of gold to be relocated. According to the Wall Street Journal, Venezuela will move the cash from Swiss and English banks to Russia, China and Brazil, while moving hundreds of tons of bullion from abroad into its own central bank vaults. No official statement has been released, but following the US debt ceiling crisis, senior Venezuelan officials have been vocal about a crisis of uncertainty with a dollar-based monetary system. Don't know what to make of that at all. Maybe you do. Big picture agriculture. August 2011 World Bank report shows food price index up 33% over a year ago. World Bank report, and we get a bit more of a chart. 10B. Price change of key commodities. Now, over on the right list is July to July, July 2010 to July 2011. And the increase in fats and oils up 32%, grains up 54%, prices of maize up 84%, rice up 21%, wheat up 55%, sugar 62%, soybeans 47%, and crude oil up 45%. That's up from July 2010 to July 2011, but more recently up from, or down, February to July 2011. There's a few minuses in there, -5, -9, -13, etc. So the general trend for things are up huge for basic commodities, but recently that up huge has been moderating. Now I'm putting that in to tell you that I know I can be sometimes annoying on inflation and deflation. Everyone has their own ideas about what inflation and deflation is and what it means. That sort of stuff, a 84% rise in maize means a lot to a lot of people. I take notice of that for those particular people. The inflations I talk about when I talk about deflation is deflation of the assets on the books of banks, because I think that is the thing that's going to slap the OECD advanced Western world upsides the head before we notice particularly the price of maize going up, because that is going to ruin the banking system. Moving on, and finally, to the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, Richard W. Fisher giving a speech, including this chart, 11B, showing Dallas at the top of everything and how super and wonderful Texas is, and goes on and on about how wonderful Texas is and how wonderful they can do things, finishes his speech thus. I won't do the silly voice. Our official authorities must not only figure out the way to contain the nation's runaway deficits and public debt accumulation, but they must do so in a manner that is competitive with others who seek access to our money, and do so in a manner that does not pull the rug out from under the meagre recovery we are experiencing. The Committee of 12, we should know who they are now, or at least what it's going to be, the Committee of 12 and the President have an awesome task. Essentially, they must reboot our entire system of economic incentives and come forward with an updated tax and spending and regulatory regime that incentivizes businesses to invest in the United States and create jobs for American workers rather than gravitate to foreign shores. And they must do so in a manner that avoids engaging in a race to the bottom, but rather puts us back on the path to ever higher achievement of prosperity. The sooner they get on with it, the better. Uncertainty is corrosive. It is hurting job creation and capital expansion when we need it most. As Margaret Thatcher would say, don't dawdle and don't go wobbly on us, Congress. Monetary policy cannot substitute for what you must get on with doing. Get on with your job. The ugly truth is the end. I think I have made it pretty clear today that I believe what is restraining our economy is not monetary policy but fiscal misfeasance in Washington. We elect our national leaders to safeguard our country. An integral part of that consists of safeguarding the nation's fiscal probity. Pointing fingers at the Fed only diminishes credibility. The ugly truth is that the problem lies not with the monetary policy but with the need to construct a modern, appropriate set of fiscal and regulatory levers and pulleys to better incentivize the private sector to channel money into productive use in expanding our economy and enriching our people. Only Congress, working together with the President, has the power to write the rules and provide the incentives to correct the course of the great ship we know and love as America. I hope you, as the voters who put them in office, will demand no less of them. Brilliant. Brilliant oratory. Meaningless crap. Unless you know better or different. Comments below. That's us for the week. Me for the weekend. One more day for you. Speak to you over the weekend. See you next week. Bye.